Hello, I'm Hedley Apley from PTC, and in this session we'll take a look at Integrity Process Director. Integrity Process Director has a 100% web user interface and a multi-user backend database. It's also touchscreen capable and can run on PCs, tablets and smartphones. You can run Integrity Process Director on-premise or on the cloud, and it supports full multi-tenant. You can separate master process libraries and project processes, and we also provide a collection of best practices out of the box. The process library and project contents can be accessed using tag clouds or by using the advanced search facilities with type ahead. The processes then provide rich content on what to do, how to do it, who to involve, the risks, the associated tools and the skills that you'll need. You can also change the database structure. So if you want to add more items or make changes to the underlying database schema, you can do that straight through the user interface. It's fully configurable. You can modify things, rename them, add them, delete them, and see them all in this graphical editor. You can also create the relationships between your process elements, whether they be new, modified or existing, so that you can have exactly the right design of meta model for your process engineering projects. So now let's take a look at an example preloaded process. So here we can see the asset-based modular design process. We can see its process workflow and the detailed sub-processes. We can navigate using the BPMN diagrams to drill down into the information. And then when we get there, we can see the rich content, which includes text, links, maybe graphics and videos, all the information you need to know about a particular process. Here we can see the risk. We can see the subject matter experts, the various patterns that you may choose to use when you're implementing a process. We can also see the relationships, so the inputs, the outputs, the items that are in and out, and see those both in this table structure and also as a graph. These relationships graphs auto layout, and will find space and auto-organize. You can also expand them if you want to see the links to other related items, and let that auto layout as well. Alternatively, you can lock the locations and put things exactly where you want them on this graph. And then when we're happy with our layout, we can take a snapshot and include that on our process page. In addition to the relationships, we can also see the structure of our processes and the overall hierarchy. We can use this view to navigate as well. We can also discuss this process with users of the process, authors and other stakeholders. As well as the process flow at the bottom of the main page, we can also see process flows in the BPMN tab view. Here we can see them horizontally or vertically, or with more or less detail to drill down into the lower level processes. So now that we've taken a look at an example process, let's go back and do some process authoring. We'll start by creating a new simple process, and here you can see the list of items we can create, and that's based on your underlying meta model that you define. And we'll create a process, and for each process we get a process page, and we can put in our rich description, include graphics, videos to describe our process. We can also add relationships to other items in the database. So here we can link our process to the tools that you would use when carrying out the process. And then when we save, we'll see that we have a nicely formatted process page with a description and links to the related tools. Now that we've seen how to create a simple process unit, we'll move on and look at process workflows. There are a number of options. The first is to import an existing Microsoft project plan as a starting point, or we can use the built-in process builder to use natural language parsing to type in your process description, maybe in a workshop, and see that created automatically in a BPMN diagram in the central part of this view. We can sit there with the stakeholders and discuss the process using a very simple syntax to create parallel processes, optional processes, and iterative processes. As you can see, as we type, the process diagrams are automatically created. And if at any time we change our mind, we can modify the text, and the diagrams are modified automatically. So this is a great way of designing your process workflows with your stakeholders and in a very iterative and agile way. Now that we've created a sub-process workflow below our high-level process, that's automatically given us a process hierarchy that we can view in the library structure. You'll see in this view that as I move the mouse over the processes, the dependent sub-processes are highlighted to the right. So the top of the tree is the left, and the leaf nodes, the lowest items, are on the right-hand side in this view. It's very useful seeing our context and where we fit in the overall process content. Alternatively, the third option is to use the step editor for a process. Here you can use existing process content to add to your workflow or create whole new items as you go. You can see there that we can delete items. I can look in the library of existing processes and just drag them on, and if I drag that onto the arrow, that automatically puts it in my process workflow. Here we can do similar things and model parallel processes by dragging them onto an existing process. We can put in optionality and loopbacks as well. So here we'll maybe find an existing process and use that in our workflow. Here we'll add a new process step as a placeholder, something that doesn't exist in the database yet, so we can add them on the fly. Once saved, that process is then available to view and use on projects. So just as we saw before, we have the BPMN view that we can view at the top level, or the detailed, and here when we drill down we saw the processes that we inherited by reusing those sub-processes that already existed in the library. So great for process consistency because we're reusing the same things, and productivity through reuse. So now that we've seen how to create processes and workflows, let's take a look at some more examples. This is the PTC digital engineering process. We can drill right down, look at practice groups and best practices, which take us right down to these processes. For example, BOM creation. We've talked about linking things and relationships, so here we have a link to a tool, so you could be using Windchill for BOM management. We can search through the content, so here's another example looking at integrated test planning, and as well as the processes we can drill down and see the techniques, the procedures and the value achieved by implementing each of the best practice processes. We can also see techniques. Techniques could even have templates, examples with screenshots to show you how to achieve the process in a particular tool. So it's quite good to separate processes, so general things you have to do, from the techniques which can be tool specific. So once we've authored a process, we can now publish it to make it available for use on projects. And you'll see here we have full configuration management with versions of the process through time, and then freezing them makes them available. We also have many reports, and you can also create your own to show you things like process maturity and completeness. And in this case we have a list of all the processes that we've been creating or that have been provided out of the box with Integrity Process Director. So now let's switch roles and move over to the role of a project manager. As a project manager, we can initiate a project basing it on a process from the master process libraries. We can use the structural view, or we can search and find the starting point for our process. So here we'll use the process that we created earlier on. Once we've chosen the process, there's then logic embedded in the process. We didn't see this when we were authoring, but you can embed logic, which provides optional choices about process and iterations. You can see there's a progress bar, and you go through and answer the questions. And this gives you a truly agile approach to process. By answering those embedded questions, it's tailoring the large and complete process to exactly the process steps you need for your project. We can then give our project a name, and optionally we can assign actual people to the roles that were defined in the master process. So in this example, we've got an advisor user role, which I'll assign to myself, and an ambassador user, so I'll play that role on this project. Once you've assigned people, then they are automatically emailed to tell them that they've been assigned tasks on this project, and they'll show up in their individual dashboards. So this is my dashboard, and it shows me the tasks that I've been assigned on this project. They're all hot links, so I can click on those tasks, go straight to them to understand what to do, how to do it, what tools to use, who to involve. As the project manager, I can see the process that's now been created as a result of answering the questions in that project initiation wizard. If I have the right privileges, I can also modify the project process further to maybe add some steps. If I've got the right privileges, even delete some mandatory steps. But these project processes are still linked and traced back to the master process libraries. So we're just kind of tuning the process for my particular project. You can also use this to estimate the work involved. And it's this tuning that really makes process more usable. So if you have a fixed process, maybe on the internet, it's unlikely to be used because everybody will think their project is slightly different here. By building in the tuning but keeping the linking, we're making it much more easy to apply the process onto each individual project. Now that we have that specialist process for my project, We can run it within Process Director, or we could export it into standard XML, which imports into tools like Microsoft Project. So here we have our full work breakdown structure in a Gantt chart with all the relationships between the items. We also have the description from Integrity Process Director and a hot link to the page so that we can go and see that process, read about it, what to do, how to do it, etc. So you have the option of running the project using Microsoft Project or the similar tools that support the standard Project XML. You can also use Integrity Process Director to execute the process on the project. Here we can see that we're progressing a particular task. We can also complete tasks either successfully or unsuccessfully. We can store the deliverables or point to the deliverables stored in other tools such as Windchill or Integrity Lifecycle Manager, and we can store metrics and KPIs as you progress through the process. Another report that we have here also shows the step fidelity, which is a difference between the processes in this project and the master library. So the optional process is removed, and you can see there that we added also a meeting process as well. Process consumers, whilst they're working on the process, can also provide process feedback either through the discussion forum or through other routes, including metrics about the process, to give you that full closed loop for process improvement over time. So now that we've looked at the project manager and a little bit at consuming process, let's move back to the role of the process author. Let's assume that process consumer has given us some feedback and we'll make a small change to improve our process. We can save it and then freeze it to make it available to all the projects. The projects don't automatically have that update applied. When they next access the process, they'll see a notification that there's a new process available. So here down on the right hand side, firstly you can view the changes and see the differences. So here you can see that simple text that we added. If you're happy with that, you can then upgrade and apply those changes to your future process steps and processes to ensure you've always got the best practices at hand. To find out more, please go to ptc.com and search on Integrity Process Director.